Hey, how you doing out there? Brothers and sisters, what's going on? This is Mable, your princess of poetry and praise. So thankful you're with us today. You are watching Conversations with Mable, your princess of poetry and praise, brought to you by our nonprofit, Amen Communications Incorporated. We provide dollars for scholars as they matriculate through colleges, universities, schools to try to get a license, a certification, a degree, a career, so they can do what they got to do in the world. We're glad you're with us. This is going to be the last in a series of tests that we've been giving, where we show you things from the past and then bring it on up to explain why this is all important for today. And we want you to call your friends, your neighbors, your buddies, your pals, your relatives. Tell all of them to come on, mama them, to help you to see if you can pass the test today. Let's look at the first thing on the test. Today, when our grandchildren want some ice, they simply put their cup up next to the front of the refrigerator and the ice falls out. But back in the day when we were little kids, what did we have to do? We had to fill up these trays with water, put them in the freezer, let them freeze, and then pull them out, pull up the little lever, and then the ice would fall out. Next, look at this. Who knows what this is? Yes, it's an iron. But what kind of iron? It didn't have an electrical cord. We didn't have electricity. This was an iron that you could use on a wood stove, or you could put it on eventually a gas stove, and even now an electric stove. But back in the day when we were using this particular kind of iron, we were able to maybe put good Argo starch on our clothes the night before and roll them up. That's the way my grandmother used to do it. And then the next morning she would iron all those wrinkles out. And you talking about a blouse and a shirt looking good and the collars all stiff and no wrinkles and everything right in place. And our skirts, those pleated skirts we used to wear, I would sit up in class sometimes to try to pull those pleats apart. You could hardly get them apart. You're talking about some real ironing. And what did we sometimes have in our lunch? A tomato sandwich made with fresh tomatoes from the garden or from the backyard or the side yard or the kitchen. And those tomatoes would be sliced with a little salt and pepper, and then put some mayonnaise or some type of salad dressing on top of that. And you talking about some good eating. Oh, wow. Now, how many of you remember this? A sock hop. You better know how to pony. Oh, yeah. A bony maroni. Ooh, ooh. The mashed potatoes. Oh, yeah. Do the alligator. Ooh, ooh. Put your hands on your hip now. Ha. And let your backbone slip now. Na 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 na. We did all of that at the sock hop. At the end of the day, if all the students had done what they were supposed to do, our grades were good, our behavior had been good, our principal would say we're going to have a sock hop, and after our classes, we would go to our gym, take off our shoes, put them on the side. Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Come on. And we would just have a good time. They would put on the hit music and let us have a sock hop for maybe an hour. It was really like an exercise period or a dance, like a dance party. That's what it was for little children, for elementary students. We had that, a sock hop. And then we had oxtails. Oxtails. Now today, if you buy oxtails, and I mean just a little package, you're talking about $25 just for a little package. But when I was a little girl, they were not a specialty as they are today. My grandmother would buy lots of oxtails and neck bones and chicken backs and chicken necks and chicken feet and just all kinds of, stuff, pig feet and pigtails and pig ears, and they were cheap. They were cheap. But nowadays, oxtails are a delicacy. So you're going to pay good money to eat oxtails and rice and peas and plantains and cabbage. Whew. Jamaican food. Hey, man. And grits. Oh, I love grits with a little salt, a lot of pepper. And when I got married, I noticed my husband put sugar on his grits. And he told me at the plant, whenever the big VIPs would come back down from corporate up in the Midwest, they would ask them to make sure they bought some grits, some boxes of grits for them, because they couldn't get the Southern grits that we had down here up in the Midwest. Grits. Let's see what else is on my list. Oh boy, pot liquor, pot liquor, pot liquor. And it's not an alcoholic beverage. When you cook turnip greens, collard greens, mustard greens, kale greens, spinach, there is a broth. And that broth, that delicious juice, is what you call pot liquor. And when babies were little, of course, they were mostly fed by their mothers, breast milk. But in addition, as they moved on to real food, they would go to pot liquor with a couple of little kernels of cornbread mashed up, and the mothers would feed them with their hand, not with a spoon, but with their hands. They would mash it up. And some grandmothers maybe would put some of that food in their mouth first and chew it up a little bit and then put it in the baby's mouth. But pot liquor, what shocked me was my husband took me to this upscale, super duper restaurant where I just knew we were going to be eating fine dining. And I opened the menu, and to my amazement, under appetizer was pot liquor and corn muffins. And as I mentioned corn muffins, I got to mention this. Hot water cornbread. That is still my favorite. That is still my favorite. Before we could afford to buy a lot of eggs and sweet milk or, buttermilk, all these different kind of milks and stuff, and a lot of butter to put in cornbread, we had hot water, we had grease, and we had meal. And you talking about, country cooking, food that would stick to your tummy. That hot water cornbread, you just can't beat it. You can't beat it. Because my mama liked to put 2 and 3 eggs in cornbread, and she used buttermilk in her cornbread. She was one of those fancy cooks, according to my grandmother. Then there was something called souse or pork head cheese or hog head cheese. And one of my good friends was telling me a couple of days ago that when her husband's grandmother came to visit, she told her, we're going to make some souse. And my friend is an excellent, excellent cook. She knew exactly how to follow the directions and work with her grandmother-in-law and make that souse, make that pork head cheese. The other thing along with souse I remember is liver cheese or liverwurst. And you eat all of these with crackers. And the liver cheese, think of white bread, and around the outside of the white bread is the brown crust. Well, on the outside of the brown liver cheese is that little white ring. And you cut that off, and then you eat the part in the middle with crackers. At my grandmother's houses, they had bedroom oil lamps. And they would fill the oil lamps up with oil, and it was a little thing in the middle that they would light. They take a match and light that little thing in the middle, that little piece of cloth right in the middle. The wick, that's what it was. They would light that wick and then put the top on top of it. And even though we had electricity, even though we had electrical lamps, even though we had a television and a radio eventually, and a black and white TV at that, my grandmother depended on that bedroom oil lamp, especially if it was storming, if it was raining, If it got real crazy outdoors, she could depend on that bedroom oil lamp. She could also depend upon the kerosene lamp that they used outside. And of course, they got the kerosene from the filling station. We'd walk to the filling station and get a whole jug full of kerosene and take it back. So we'd always have light no matter what would happen, and put the kerosene in the kerosene lamp. They also use kerosene for medicinal purposes. If mosquitoes or some type of bug or something had bit you, mosquito bites, you could rub that kerosene on your legs. If there was some kind of special other medicines or salves that they would mix up sometimes with that kerosene, and they would rub it on themselves, and it almost would be like a liniment. And y'all know what a liniment is. That's the kind that you buy. But with the kerosene and with just plain oil, they would make their own liniments or their own salves to try to help to take care of arthritis or bursitis or whatever kind of aches and pains and stiffnesses that they may have had in their knees or arms or back. They would give you the medicine that they had conjured up and put together, and you'd rub it on your grandparents' back. Along with the liniments, we also had a slave type quilt. And the quilts were made with beautiful pieces, just little pieces of material or cloths or cotton or things that you might not have given to the rag man. And you end up putting it together, making this beautiful tapestry. Sometimes women would get together at one time at the church or somewhere together after a picnic and try to put together different pieces of cloth and make quilts and sew together, sewing circles, especially at churches and everything. But these quilts also were educational, because if you look at many of the Underground Railroad type quilts, there were messages woven and sewed within those quilts, almost like when they would do those smoke messages, and you send up those smoke messages. This was a message through the quilt, to tell the slaves how to cross over a river, a creek, when to turn and go down a certain bend, when to go up a big mountain, when to go down a valley in order to get to freedom, in order to cross over into the promised land. This was like our smoke signals to direct us to freedom, all in a quilt. Can you believe that? All in a quilt. And when I worked at the university, I worked with a professor who had gone to conferences where people did papers and presentations explaining how quilts throughout the centuries have been used for different purposes, not just to keep you warm, but as tapestries, to beautify a room, but also to send those special smoke signals to let the slaves know how to get to freedom, freedom, freedom. Along with the quilt, something else I thought of from way, way back was when people would say, and this is from 1 John 3:13, marvel not, my brethren, if the world hate you. Marvel, marvel, marvel not. And that marvel was meant, don't be surprised. Don't be astonished. Don't be marvel, marvel. But I think some older people thought that marvel not, my brethren, meant to tell the little boys, you don't need to play marbles. So if they had their little bag full of those colorful marbles, the older people would say, marvel not, son, marvel not, marvel not. marble versus marvel. And that made me think about that good old bubble gum. Oh my Lord, we loved bubble gum. And the bubble gum would be so sugary and good and tasting good when you first start chewing it. And after you chew all the sugar out of it and you get it to be a little limp, then you start getting ready to make those bubbles, and we would see who could make the biggest bubbles, and somebody would come by and boop, pop your bubble. We also made bubbles by getting one of those little bottles full of the bubble mixture, and you take this little plastic thing and stick it down in there and pull it out, and the bubbles would come out. The bubbles would come out. Nowadays, when I look at some of the things my kids and my grandchildren have, they have all kinds of different bubble machines and bubble guns and all kinds of ways to make bubbles different from the way we did back in the day. Another thing that I loved was paper dolls. Paper dolls. We either made paper dolls, or if our folks had money, they went and bought some paper dolls. And they were simply made out of paper, and they were images of boys and girls and parents and dogs and cats and families and houses and stores and schools. And you could sit up and just play school. You could play church. You could play like I'm going uptown. You could play like I'm doing something special. I'm going to a party. I'm going to a dance, all with your paper dolls. But you used your imagination. You didn't have any batteries. You didn't have any electricity. All of that was expensive. And the little boys had something called cap pistols. Cap pistols. I never got one of those. But with the cap pistols that the little boys got, it was this little rolled up piece of red paper. And when you put that little roll in the cap pistol, and then when you close it and you fire it, it'd go pop. And the little boys would go, just like they had seen on the Westerns. So when they were out running around, hiding behind bushes and trees and playing with their pop cap pistols, we would be playing with our paper dolls and playing with our Raggedy Anns and playing with our little dolls where you put the little water in and the water would soon come out. All of that made me think about something, and I had to laugh. We took baths, we washed our hair, we washed dishes, we washed vegetables, we cleaned floors, we cleaned clothes, anything that had to be cleaned. We used LYE, lye soap. That stuff was strong too. And I mean, when you were taking a bath in that lye soap, it didn't smell good like many of the soaps that we have now. It was just kind of bland. And they would scrub it up on your elbows and on your knees and try to get all the dirt and all the sweat and perspiration after we had been running around playing games and hide and go seek and all that kind of stuff. Oh my goodness. Lye soap. I was so glad when my mama got married again, we could afford the soap that would float. The soap that would float. I think I was ready to shout and jump in that bathtub when I saw that soap that would float. And it had a nice fragrance. It had a nice scent to it. So that lye soap, it would work, but it just didn't smell as good. Along with the lye soap, something else that was kind of brown around. And I guess it was maybe white, not really brown or beige. It was white. It would come in a box with a little white paper across the top of it and everything. And my grandmother would slice a little bit and put it in that big iron skillet and fry the best chicken I have ever had in my life with lard. 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 Can you believe it, y'all? Lard. And no telling what lard will do to your system now. It probably would send us in a whole shock. But that lard could make the best fried chicken. And instead of deodorant and instead of toothpaste, we couldn't afford all of that. That was a luxury. We had baking soda that you put in your refrigerator in order to keep it smelling fresh and in order to use sometimes when you're cooking. But the baking soda was a great way to keep your teeth in good condition and to keep them bright and white. Yes. It also helped us when we were running around because the baking soda was like a deodorant. It would keep your underarms dry. We had cod liver oil that we had to take a little teaspoonful every morning before we went out the door. And that cod liver oil, you would hear the same little segment every day. You got to take the cod liver oil because you have to put oil in your car or your truck, and you got to put oil in your body. And that also meant you had to put oil in your body every 6 weeks when they give you a little castor oil to clean out your system. Oh, Lord. Castor oil and orange juice. But if you were sick, you wanted that castor oil. You wanted that cod liver oil. But what happened is by doing all of this, we were never that sick. We were never needing to go to the doctor. I mean, I can't even think of the times when we actually had to go to the doctor. You had to be really, 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 really sick. Sick to where you had to go to the hospital. Because we were always in good condition. And we always, especially over Mama Fanny's house, when you went to her house, you ate bran flakes and you ate those shredded wheat and without raisins, without sugar, without, not the good stuff. And we also had, let me go get this. Y'all know what this is? Prune juice. Ooh, Lord, prune juice. You got to clean out your system. You got to keep your system clean. Well, anyway, I think I've said enough when I said all of that. It's time to go and try to tie all of this together. Why are we talking about all of this? Because some of the things that our grandparents and mama them taught us are things that will help us from a health-wise to help us to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And those are things I want us to remember. Those are things I want us to try to do and keep doing because they're going to keep us where we need to be as far as making sure that our system is right and making sure that we stay healthy. What I want to explain more than anything else is that we can remember the things that are good that helped us, but we don't want to remember or bring back the things that hindered us. The things that hindered us. The things that hindered us, like segregation, like black, brown, Negro, all these different terms, the N word, trying to describe who we were, African Americans, like trying to degrade us by using that N word rather than even using one of those other words like colored or Negro or black or African American, but using that N word. We don't want that to come back. We don't want segregation to come back. We don't want lynchings to come back. We don't want to be having separate schools, unequal schools. We don't want to be in a situation where we can't apply for jobs and get the same jobs that other people who don't have a permanent tan get. We don't want to be in a situation where we can't buy a house wherever we can afford to buy a house. We don't want to go and get on the bus and pay the same amount that everybody else pays, but go to the back of the bus. We don't want to have to look in a bathroom and decide, should I go in the one that says colored or the one that says white? Can I go and drink water from the fountain that says colored or the one that says white? We don't want to have to hear we can only go to the zoo or the museum or the circus or some special affair or like the fair, that we can't do any of that except for on Thursdays because those were the days that were designated for all of us with a permanent tan. We don't ever want to go through that again. We don't want to have to go to the theater and sit up at the top or sit way in the back and can't see anything. We don't want that. We want to be equal. We want things right. We want things to say exactly what this country is all about. So what I want to share and show you is something that helps to say all of this. Not just the Fair Housing Act and the Brown versus Board of Education and the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, not just them, but I want to go back to what really pulled all this together. What really pulled all this together was that we are Americans. We are Americans. We live in this country just like everybody else. So therefore, we want everybody, whether you're red, yellow, black, brown, whatever, We all should be under and saying the same thing because we hold, I want you to listen to this. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Preamble to the United States Declaration of Independence. And then this is the one that I really want you all to think about because it's so important. Listen to this. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This is what America is all about. And this is why we believe what Martin Luther King said. It is not possible to be in favor of justice for some people and not be in favor of justice for all people. And he went on to say, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Love y'all. God bless you. Ta-ta.